Well, after 6.5 years, the show, which is Yellowstone, has come to an end with this episode, focusing on the future for all of the characters following the ranch being sold. The brother and sister feuded between Jamie and Beth, reaching its climax, and the promise that was laid down in 1883 actually being fulfilled. This was an ending to the series that wasn't perfect by any means, but there was an emotional edge to it, and one which connected back to the family's roots when they first stepped foot on the land. So how good was the finale? Did they manage to save the show? And will there be a spin-off series? Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. What happened to the ranch? Well, during the closing moments of the episode, we saw that Elsa Dutton's voice played over the final time that we saw the Yellowstone ranch being shown to us. Her grave was also the first one that picked up, following the children knocking them all over a moment, which felt a little bit strange. I do have to say, Elsa Dutton was the first Dutton to die in Montana, and this occurred in 1883. The Dutton family were originally on the Oregon Trail and were intending to go to Oregon, but because Elsa was wounded and was on the cusp of dying, James Dutton took a detour and wanted to settle on the spot where she'd die, which was in Montana. Casey and Beth ended up selling the ranch to Thomas Rainwater and the reservation for $1.1 million because they couldn't afford the inheritance tax that they needed to pay. They chose this price because when James Dutton settled on the land in 1883, the price of an acre was $125, so Casey thought it was fair to return it at the price that it would have been when it was taken Rainwater. And the Native American people getting the land is something that's so important to the show because it was the very foundation that the show was built upon. When Elsa was sick and dying in 1883, it was the kindness and goodwill of the Native American man that told James Dutton where a good piece of land was, but he also said that one day his people would want the land back, and when they did in 7 generations' time, it had to be given to them. This was a promise that James Dutton obliged with, because obviously he knew that he wouldn't be around at that time, so the Native American people getting it back tied right the way back to that original promise. A promise that wasn't written down, but one which lived on in spirit, as Elsa Dutton herself said. So it was a poignant, powerful, and important moment, for sure. With the reservation getting their hands on the land, part of the deal was that there would be a piece of it carved out for Casey and his family to live on, which couldn't be touched, and the Yellowstone Ranch in itself wouldn't be able to get sold on with that sale. Taking place, the ranch was declared a wilderness site, which meant that no vehicles would be able to be driven on it, and no commercial properties would be able to be built on it. Either the land would be as open and free as the day that it was acquired by the Dutton. Only Tooths and Feet could step on it. Jamie didn't actually feature that much in this episode because he didn't attend the funeral for his father. Instead, he was working on his speech about how he was going to position himself as somebody that was good for the state of Montana, and he wanted to get the people's opinions to turn on the fact that he was being intimate with Sarah. I thought the tape between Sarah and himself being intimate with one another was something that was going to get leaked, but obviously it didn't. Once Jamie delivered his speech and really leaned on the fact that the people spreading rumors about him were taking a dig at the people's decision to select who they wanted in power, and it was a knock at their right of freedom. The radio presenters said that the people of Montana were pleased with Jamie. They specifically said, at a time without a leader needs Taurus, and the people felt like Jamie was that very person. However, when he got home, Beth was waiting for him, and she beat him to a pulp, and he did the same to her when Beth revealed that the ranch was sold. Jamie realized that his plan had essentially failed, and the money and success that he was hoping to have was gone, and everything that happened was essentially for nothing. The death of his father, the ruining of the relationship with his family, and also the death of Sarah, too. So he went to kill Beth, but it was disrupted when Rip walked in and stopped it. Jamie ended up meeting his end at the hands of Beth. When she stuck the knife into him, she said to him that she was going to be the last thing that he saw when she confronted him in episode 10. Segment 5. Final thoughts. So, how was the finale? In my opinion, it wasn't perfect, but it was a strong emotional payoff. Elsa Dutton's voice appearing at the end tied the story back to its origins in 1883, bringing everything full circle. It felt like the end of an era for the Dutton family. Beth's performance stole the show. Her grief, rage, and determination were palpable. The fight with Jamie was one of the most intense moments in the series, and her victory felt well-earned. Jamie's demise, while dramatic, felt almost like a side plot compared to John's funeral and the ranch's sale. I wish his story had been more integrated into the main narrative. Ultimately, the finale managed to deliver satisfying endings for most of the characters. The Duttons weren't perfect, far from it, but their story was one of survival, legacy, and family. And this conclusion honored that. Despite its behind-the-scenes drama, Yellowstone will be remembered as one of television's most iconic series. And with 1923 returning in February, the Dutton universe is far from over. What did you think of the finale? Did it meet your expectations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The fight with Jamie was one of the most intense moments in the show's history, and her final victory felt earned. While the season as a whole had its flaws, the finale was one of its stronger episodes. It tied up the series in a way that honored the Dutton family's journey, even if it wasn't the ending Sheridan initially envisioned. Legacy and what's next. Despite its messy behind-the-scenes drama and a shortened final season, Yellowstone leaves behind a legacy as one of TV's most talked-about series. The show may be over, but its universe lives on, with 1923 returning next year, and whispers of more to come. What did you think of the finale? Did it live up to your expectations?